Yo, what's going on, everyone? I just want to give you a little update on what this is. So I was asked to join a Knicks-Sixers preview show as the Sixers are gearing up to play the Knicks, although no one in this town gives a damn about Sixers hoops currently, and rightfully so. I decided for about 40 minutes of this interview to get out as much frustration as humanly possible, considering there shouldn't be a world where the Sixers are so irrelevant, yet they are. So here is me discussing why the Sixers piss me off. Thank you.
And when it comes to the energy of a sports fan, you will absolutely find it with Hunter Brody of Brodes Media. Can I call you Brodes? Are we there yet, Brodes? Is that cool? Brodes, yes. Welcome to Knicks Film School. And just who's playing tonight for the Sixers? Because I have no idea.
Well, I don't know either. You kidding me? Here in Philly, we wait till about, an hour and a half, 2 hours before the game. We get hit with all this crazy news. All of our big-time beat reporters let us know Embiid's probably not going again. Paul George is out. He stinks. Maxey's going to maybe play. It depends on how he warms up. Listen, I haven't been able to talk about the Sixers in so long because, one, as you alluded to, no one has played, and two, the Eagles are on a run, and I need to get out this frustration, so thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome, and if there's anybody or any place, I should say, where you could just go to town on frustrations or slander about the Philadelphia 76ers, it's absolutely here with me at Knicks Film School, and it's actually somewhat disappointing because, look, I'm the author of the back-to-back L's tweet. I was here for when the Sixers and the Phillies were eliminated by two New York teams in 2024. Now, I will admit I used to be a Jets fan, or the bit is that I've used to be a Jets fan. So I have no dog in the Saquon going to the Eagles and then the Eagles taking off with him as an MVP candidate fight. But the Philadelphia gets some of that back with what Saquon did this season. But when I want to then return to those emotions that came out during the playoffs, it's frustrating because this Sixers team, they're 15-23. There was a stretch where it looked like they were turning things around. And Embiid came back into the team meetings, and the Christmas Day game was somewhat thrilling. And I guess is the entire city similar to you in the sense of like this Sixers thing has gone so off the rails so far this season that we're just going to turn our attention to football. And then if it's not good when we turn our attention back to basketball, the Phillies are right around the corner. Is that where the Sixers stand at the moment?
Half of you is correct.
Okay.
I do believe that this city right now is sort of putting the Sixers on the back burner. But once the Eagles ends, it's not let's just move forward to Phillies. It's wake the you-know-what up, and, we got to figure this thing out because we're not going to accept this for long. So whether that's we discuss what the future is with Embiid, even though the contract extension, you got to wait for all that to work itself out. You obviously just signed Paul George. So is it time to build through Maxey and Jared McCain whenever he gets back healthy? What is Daryl Morey's job in all this moving forward? I think there's going to be some serious, tough, difficult questions that we're just pushing down the road, but we won't skip over it. There's no doubt about it because we do love this city, or we do love this team. We want them to be in this city. And, obviously I'm bringing that up because of the whole, I don't know if you're paying too much attention to them possibly moving to Camden, New Jersey, but they didn't move and all that shebang. But look, there's a lot of love for this organization, and this is totally unacceptable. So yes, the Eagles are absolutely taking our full focus right now, but the second that ends, there's going to be pitchforks, and rightfully so.
Can I follow up on the location of the building at the moment? So
yes.
I know it looked like it was headed for Jersey, which to Knicks fans, as funny as it would be for the Sixers to play in Philadelphia, to play in Jersey, it's literally across the river, so it's not like a crazy thing, especially when football teams in New York play across the river in New Jersey as well. Right. I would have a hard time basically making fun of it, is the point. And then you look at the downtown situation, and that failed this week, right?
From my knowledge, this is the thing. They buried it on a Sunday when the Eagles are ready to kick off at 4:25. The Sixers ownership group, who owns the Commanders as well, and the Jersey Devils, slid it in at 4 o'clock as a news dump. So nobody paid attention to it because we were gearing up for Eagles-Packers, which makes me hate them even more. But from my understanding is they went through all the proper protocols. They got it to where it was accepted to build it in Center City, and then they decided to team up with Comcast and the Flyers to just rip up and shred what they were going to do to build new facilities in South Philadelphia as one. So I think they played the public, they played the mayor, they played all of the government, and they played a leverage game with it and succeeded. But we hate Sixers ownership, so screw them.
Been there with hating ownership, and I'm coming from the Mets world where an ownership change literally changed the culture and outlook of a franchise there. The ironic part about the Knicks and what their turnaround is, it's same owner, like still Dolan, and they've just been able to turn things around because the right person's in charge. And from all accounts, he's been hands off enough that Leon Rose has been allowed to rebuild what the Knicks have been this year. Look, you kind of alluded to it, the different negatives to point to with the Sixers this season, and whether it's ability on the court and what you've seen when people have played, or just unavailability off the court and how inconsistent the attendance policy has been with the Sixers. I mean, I'll actually throw you a bone here. Is there a positive that you can point to from this season? I know they're 15-23. I know the injuries have piled up. Is it what Maxi's been, still averaging 25 a game? Again, is it the bright spot you saw with Jarrett McCain? Kelly Oubre's underlying like defensive statistics, he's like up there in deflections. He's been great this season. What would you point to if there was one thing?
It's probably McCain. I actually think in this town, we love Maxey, and by no means is this a shot at Maxey, but there's been some inconsistencies with him, whether it's sometimes you look and it's like, dude, he hasn't hit a 3 yet, and he's taken 6, and he's still learning. Like, he's a smaller guard, and we always talk about him learning the physicality around the rim, so maybe he can get to the charity stripe. And without Embiid, the two-man game between them two are very fun to watch, but when Embiid's not playing and you put the ball in his hands, he's not a real point guard where he facilitates and lets the game slow down. He's quick, he's fast. So I feel he's trying to still grow, but he's without big pieces to his development, which is making it a little weird. So I'd say most fans probably feel a little bit more disappointed with Maxey more than anything else this year, whether that's fair or not, or expectations kind of make it awkward. I think McCain's the answer here. He looks legit. It's unfortunate he got injured. And I'd say the other positive would be Yabusele, but the problem is someone else is going to end up landing him due to the financial stuff moving forward. So as fun as it's been for him, it doesn't seem like it's a long-term option. So it kind of stings. It almost makes it a negative at the end of the day. McCain's my answer. But can I answer something else that you never even asked me?
Yeah, please. Well, what question was I supposed to ask? That
I don't know.
Perfectly. Go ahead.
I don't know. You probably asked it, and I just went over it.
No, go ahead.
My frustration with this team, and this town is super split on Joel. It's 50-50. It
was the next question, Brodes.
Okay,
I was going to go. Where are we with Embiid? You know how Knicks fans feel about the guy. Mitch Robinson still hasn't played yet this season. So how do you feel about Joel Embiid these days?
Okay. I am a huge fan of Joel Embiid. I am not a hater of Joel Embiid. I think you win in this league when you have superstar talent that is that caliber of player skill-wise. He's a phenomenally skilled big man in this league. I just don't think he can stay upright any longer. And, it started out with the knee, and then he did the Olympics and the whole offseason. And was he prepared for this year? And he did fight through the meniscus. Here's the problem. For all of us that are bothered that he's not playing back-to-backs and he's missing 30 games and all this stuff, he tried pushing through it the last 5 years of his career, and then we weren't able to get what we wanted because he didn't have anything left in the tank, or he had meniscus surgery, and then he played 3 weeks later in the playoffs, and then he went into the Olympics, and whenever he pushed it, it never worked. And then now he's resting, and it's not working either. And I love Joel. I don't think you you pass up on that type of talent. But at some point, if you're 10 years into this, 11 years into this, now it's a foot and it's not the knee anymore, and it just keeps going on and on and on. At some point, you got to realize, as great as the talent is, and as much as I want to go down swinging with the best talent possible, because in the NBA, that obviously is what you need, I just don't know anymore. This season's the big, I don't know if he can physically handle the toll that we're asking. We need you to be that efficient offensively, every single possession at the nail offensively. And then, by the way, you got to anchor our defense at 7'2" with 5,000 foot problems and knee problems. He might just fall into the category of the Bill Walton never lived up to the expectation because of an injury. Yao Ming injury. He might just be a big man that never been able to do it because his body just doesn't allow him to do it. And that's kind of where I'm at with Embiid. So does that mean trade him whenever this? They gave him an extension for $200 million that hasn't even kicked in yet. We got to wait for that whole thing to play out, but I'm open to listening for phone calls, and I know that means you might take a step back, but I'd listen to calls. Doesn't mean I'm saying yes. Doesn't mean I'm doing it. It has to be the right package, but would I field a phone call? This is the first time in my life I'd say yes.
So you caught me off guard with the phone call, and the irony of you saying that is, a year ago today, I probably would have thought the Knicks are the ones taking that phone call, that the CAA connection is clearly there. The Knicks had all their picks available. We've been hearing for years what, the interest was and the relationship was between Leon Rose and Joel Embiid. And funny what one postseason series that apparently the entire Knicks locker room turned on Embiid and what happened in that series, especially with Mitch. And then, this offseason, they went all in for Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns and this roster that they've put together. So I don't even know the team that's taking the call, especially to your point with the injury concerns that now exist, which leads to, look, you sound like you're talking about a window that's closing. And I'm curious if that's where you're at. Like, maybe the window has closed. We were on borrowed time with his injury history as it is and just didn't win when we had the chance. And now do you, and I guess as a result, Sixers fans also feel, after what you've seen so far this year, oh, you know what? We had the chance, and maybe this window already closed, and we have to start to transition to something else.
Yeah, I think that's happening. The problem is you just signed Paul George, who stinks, by the way. Everything Clippers fans tell you, when you watch him, it's the classic, you see the name from a distance, then you watch him every night thing. Mm-hmm. It's bad. Look, is it bad? No, but it's a superstar name that you expect. If Embiid can't play, should you be able to beat a 7-win Pelicans team without 4 starters? Now, they don't have I don't even remember if he played that game or not. That's how many games he hasn't played either. So I'd have to go back and look, because seriously, nobody plays anymore. But at some point, the reason you brought in Paul George is because they told us they had this master plan that they were going to rest Embiid periodically throughout the regular season, and you should be able to survive in the NBA regular season with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey as your 1-2 punch. And Paul George can't. He can't win you regular season games without Joel Embiid. And Clippers fans are all mentioning, see, I told you so, see, I told you so. It's one of those where when you watch it every night, it's extremely disappointing. Of course, he's going to have 40 points against the Knicks after I say
tonight.
This.
Yeah, of course. This is the game that he breaks out. Exactly.
Yep. And I'm just disappointed in everything. Even Nick Nurse. And I think Nick Nurse is a good coach. And when you don't have your players, it's hard. And I never scream about NBA head coaches, because majority of it falls on the players more than the NBA coach. But he's putting out lineups that just don't even make logical sense at all. Maybe it's because he has no answers and he has no bodies. Maybe that's it. But this whole thing is crumbling. And to answer your question, yeah, it does seem like their window is closing here, but they're stuck. Window's closing and they're stuck. What do you do?
So if you had to rank the frustration, or maybe not even rank, but like the frustration pie, like the biggest slice goes to Embiid or Paul George?
Embiid's health, which is an uncontrollable.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless you want to get mad at him for playing in the Olympics, which people were mad at him for not prioritizing what they felt was more important, meaning the Sixers are the one paying his bills. Sixers are the one giving him all that money. And instead of being ready for the regular season this year, he had a lot of wear and tear. And we actually on WIP had a chance to interview Jay Wright. And Jay Wright was talking to the midday show time. And this sticks in my head big time, because he was giving Embiid credit just for his ability to perform in the Olympics. Without him, they're probably not getting to the gold medal game. So it was a big deal. But he talked about the physical toll that goes into preparing for that event. And he was saying it all within a positive, like for Embiid to do that, it says a lot. But of course, my mind goes, yeah, exactly. That's why you wonder, was that a smart decision, knowing that you played in the postseason right after a meniscus surgery, and now you're going through that level of toll on your body? Is that the right decision? So maybe you can put some blame on him. I always go back to, in the U.S., international play for us as Americans doesn't hit the same way as international for outside countries. It matters more to outside countries. So
we get that more from baseball, though. Like the international, like the World Baseball Classic is like the thing. Like you see more emotion in that. And yet, again, coming from the Mets world, I lost my closer for a year because of an injury celebrating in the World Baseball Classic. Made me think some things and say some things after that injury. Listen, I went out of my way to be like, hey, I'm glad everybody's having fun in this exhibition. And everybody that held it up like it was the March World Series got mad at me. The point being, I think, yes, the international play. Look, I had a blast watching Steph go nuts, and Steph, LeBron, and KD, and I think all of us did. But I think in your position, if you got a guy with injury concerns like Embiid, I could understand and absolutely empathize to the frustration.
Yeah,
I guess I
got one more thing on that.
Yeah,
too,
go ahead.
Now I'm thinking about what happened there, because I tried convincing myself it was a good thing, because when you're around LeBron, when you're around Steph, when you're around winners and you're winning, you'd think maybe you would absorb that and soak it in like a sponge. Then what? 2 months later, Maxey's got to call him out for not being on time?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're the superstar of the team. I thought you'd learn. If you learned something there, then maybe I could walk away with positives. But when you're 22, 23, however old Maxey is now, young star, now has to yell at you to be on time in a closed-door meeting, then what was the purpose? What was the purpose?
So this season, it being year one of both the Paul George contract and year two of Nick Nurse, and what seems to be really year 1.5 of this core, whatever you consider last season, if like that was the year figuring out that Maxey and Embiid was the way to go, and you just build around that. Like at the end of this season, what has to happen for wholesale changes not to occur? Like, do they have to make it? They're kind of locked to this play-in race, although the Eastern Conference is kind of mid, but you get Milwaukee's playing better, Indiana's playing better. Maybe the 6th seed isn't as attainable as we thought it would be. Is it like they have to challenge someone in the first round as an 8th seed, or is this season kind of a wash?
It's a good question. I don't know. And I think that's the problem is if they were to lose, we see this coming a mile away, right? If they lose in the first round, it's not the same as if they had 53 wins and they constantly get to the first or second round and fail, and then you want changes. Because the trajectory is what it is, maybe the mindset of ownership is already settled and they kind of understand how they feel about Morey. There's nothing that's going to change. If you're a 55-win team, everything looked smooth, and then you lose in the second round again, then I think obviously you're waiting to see how it transpires to make that next move. They may already kind of have that planned. I don't know if what you see in the first round is going to swing the ownership group on what's next, because they already see it coming. Maybe they're preparing for it, knowing that the season's been uncomfortable. Here's the issue with my plan and what I want. It does set you back. It sets you back. If you're building with Maxey and McCain, first off, I don't know if that's big enough with your two guards. You know, the Cleveland Cavaliers is going to be the test. I'm studying Cleveland to see how it works with their guards, to see if it's something that can maybe work here.
Yeah.
I don't know, because the Cavs are winning regular season games. You're saying about winning regular season games. So I don't know. Do you think the Cavs can win built with those two small guards?
So there's a Mobley aspect to that where he's taken such a leap that it almost allows you to think they can. You know, obviously this is a playoff conversation, but the 36-5, like at a certain point, you just got to look at it like, oh, this is working. Like even if it ends in a 4 out of 7 sample in the conference finals, it's absolutely something.
If they get to conference finals, I'd say there's something to it, you know?
Well, so the way it's stacked up right now, they're going to avoid New York and Boston on their way to the conference finals. And like outside of a disappointing second round loss to, I'm assuming it would be like Milwaukee or Orlando. Like that's where you're going if you're the Cavs fan, and which is why I think a healthy Embiid, like that's been sitting games out all year, showing up in the first round to play the Cavs is fascinating.
Here's my counter.
What's up?
He's not healthy.
So there's no version of him that'll be healthy this season.
I don't think he's healthy. Now it's a foot. It was a knee. Now it's transitioned to the foot. And he played, 4 or 5 games in a row. Then he missed 4 or 5 games in a row, still not playing. I don't believe that they are sitting him this much. I don't think this was the plan. Did they want to kind of ease him into the season and milk some rest days? For sure. I believe we're at what is going on here territory, you know? So, and even if that's the case, Embiid is someone who gets out of shape like this, snap of the fingers.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't play 60 regular season games and then gets thrown into the fire, he already had trouble over the years after playing all year long to close out games in the fourth quarter. Massive amount of turnovers. If he gets thrown into a first round and starts getting double and tripled after not playing 60 regular season games, he's going to be on his hands and knees huffing and puffing at the free throw line.
Yeah, it does smack you in the face when you go look up the Sixers numbers. And like, first of all, to your point about Paul George, averaging 16.8 points a game. And it'd be one thing if all 3 of them were healthy and playing together and like he just had to take a lesser role. And it's like, no, Embiid's only played 13 games. Like that smacks you in the face when you see it. 13 games. Yeah. Yeah. Like Jared McCain, Andre Drummond started more games than him, but Jared McCain played 23. And obviously that his season cut short, but is there a world Jared McCain has more games played with him by season's end?
How many did McCain finish with?
23.
Yes.
So that's, I think, the fascinating part about the Sixers is that I'm so ready for like them to show up and it's like, oh, they're healthy for 10 games at the end of the year. It's like, oh, we held our energy and you're giving me this. There's no chance that's happening.
No. Now, are you wondering from the Knicks perspective here, are you looking at it from we got to be prepared for the Sixers, or are you looking at this more of just an NBA fan saying, all right, the Sixers got to pull this out eventually here? Or are you almost having your guard up knowing the Knicks are going to potentially be lined up with a certain seed in the playoffs and the Sixers are that scary watch out team? Or is this more of you love basketball, you love the NBA, and you want to see this team have some flow because it's a better product? Where is this Knicks view or NBA fan view?
So I'm gonna answer both questions, and I'm gonna be fully transparent in how I answer them. So, as a Knicks fan, Joel Embiid has lost a lot. One may call him a loser if someone is so inclined to do so. That first round series last year was terrifying. The Embiid Maxey pick and roll for 6 games.
It was a fun series.
They just never figured it out how to beat it. And the lead changes throughout the entire series, the close games, really only game 3 was a blowout. And even then, like it was a bad third quarter when the Knicks could not stop one play that led to a bunch of 6 or 3s. And then Embiid had a free throw on his way to 50 points in the fourth quarter. And like the thought of doing that again for a first round is just not something I think anybody wants, which is why it like the Celtics earned their way to being like a 1 seed last year. And then like they got a banged up Miami Heat team in the first round. All right, but you played for a 1 seed. If the reward for being the 1 seed this year is the Sixers got healthy all of a sudden, as an NBA fan, that is fascinating. So as a Knicks fan, I welcome the challenge of playing the Sixers again. I also think the Knicks have more firepower up top. I respect what Isaiah Hartenstein was, and I think Mitchell Robinson being healthy for that series advantage Knicks for sure. But yeah, I don't think the Sixers would be able to score with the Knicks or stop the Knicks for over the course of a 7-game series and what their offense has become. Season.
I don't disagree. And the lack of cohesion. I used to be just go get star talent guy and throw it in and see what happens. Now I'm starting, and maybe it's a shift with, I think with Miami and LeBron, the big three, there was always that. Now it's starting to be a bit more open,
Yeah.
So maybe it's because of that, but cohesion matters. And this team just doesn't have it, won't have enough time to have it. So if you're playing 80 games together as a unit, or, if guys are getting injured, but you're still getting a good 65 out of 82 games together as the Knicks playing under Tibbs, it's Nick Nurse has no answers, so I think that's going to be their kryptonite. I got another question for you as I'm now turning into the interviewer.
Shoot, I like these.
Your thoughts on the current state of the NBA and the regular season, because I love basketball. This is tough, dude. This is tough, and it hurts me. And what I can't do is pretend to protect it when it's not there. And that's my first instinct, is when I hear this sucks, that I'm like, no, hold on a second. No, let me tell you why it doesn't. I can't do that here. And maybe it's because my team is never available. So when I tune in to a Pelican, they lost to a 7-win Pelicans team without 4 of their guys, so maybe I'm so blinded by, but I don't think I am. I think the natural discussion around the league is the NBA regular season product is a problem. And, you focus on it heavily. I bounce around all 14 from my understanding. Maybe I know you do but it seems to be your thing. How do you feel about it? And do you think there's a fix if there is a problem?
So the fewer games fix has been floated out there, and I do think the schedule is too long at a certain point. I think the league is the most talented it's ever been. I think we're going to look back in a couple of years. I think a couple of my colleagues have even said this. Like, there's no reason the league shouldn't have 4 more teams that, you could put another superstar on. Way back when we were in the late 90s, you'd have these teams that there was no chance at an all-star, and because you're on pace for 15, 16 wins. And now LaMelo Ball is on a Charlotte Hornets team leading the all-star voting at the moment. So I think from a talent perspective and just from a style of play, the game has never been more talented. I do think some of the Sixer frustrations are seeping into your perspective a bit, because if my best players never played, I'd also be frustrated with the product as well, because I'm seeing not what was advertised in the preseason. I guess I'm lucky that as a Knicks fan, I get to see all my players play as many minutes as possible because they play for Tom Thibodeau. And ironically, I was talking to my colleague Benji Ritholtz yesterday, like, the hilarious part about the Knicks having their entire starting 5, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart. All 5 of them are in the top 10 in total minutes this year. That can be looked at as an indictment of Tom Thibodeau. It could also be they're the healthiest team in the league. That starting 5 never misses games. That's part of the thing. They've actually had some really good fortune in that sense. It's not necessarily an indictment of them. And as a result, it allows you as a fan to buy into the team because you know what you're going to see on the court every night, at least who you're going to see on the court every night. And yeah, I know the league has to think about this because of the TV contracts and everything, but I almost look at it if you're a movie fan and everybody's concerned about the Oscar ratings dropping, if you're a movie fan, you don't care about that, what the ratings are. You care about the quality of the movies, the ones that get nominated, the where the theaters are. And you might come at it with there's so many great movies out this year. I saw so many good things. But if the casual movie fan is there's nothing good, it's only Marvel movies and it's just superheroes and Wicked, you're going to look at it from that perspective. Right. So it's almost like the diehards are left out in the cold because they're hearing about what's wrong with the league. When I'm like, do you see what the Thunder and Cavs did last Wednesday?
So you read my mind because we're sports fans, right? But there used to be a time, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but we are.
Yeah, let's do it.
There used to be a time where on Wednesdays or whatever day it would be, there'd be a TNT doubleheader. And it would be, I don't know, the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron versus a Celtics team, right? And I'd watch that at 7. And then at 10 o'clock, it would be James Harden and Steph Curry, and it would be Houston versus Golden State. And I couldn't miss a dribble. I couldn't tell you the last time. And I'm with you. OKC has nasty talent. There are teams out there that have phenomenal talent from sports fans and NBA fans' perspectives. It's, oh, wow, this is great. But if it was on TNT at 10 o'clock, that drive isn't there for me anymore. It's not the same where I want to watch an out-of-market regular season game where 5 years ago, I couldn't get enough of those games. Now, maybe, look, I work in the industry differently now compared to 5 years ago. It's my life now. So maybe it's almost like I don't need to watch the out-of-market stuff so I can have time with my family, this and that. Maybe that's it. I really don't know. But that I have to watch Steph Curry, Golden State versus James Harden, Houston. I don't get that out of OKC and Cleveland. I don't get that with some of these teams.
So let me project something. Let me actually predict something. I haven't said this publicly, so you're going to be the first to hear it.
Okay.
I predict that when NBC comes back into the fold next year, the nostalgia of the NBA on NBC will actually get people to start coming back a little bit. It obviously won't happen during football season because just that's the ratings juggernaut that it is. But the moment you hear the round ball rock and you see the Peacock logo being created, and it's like, oh my gosh, this screams prestige to me. Like, this brings a lot of people back to a time that will signal the importance. That will be a help. The other aspect of it, the names you mentioned, Steph Curry, James Harden, like, they are still playing, and they're on teams that Harden's technically on like a really good Clippers team that's like around like a 6 seed right now, but these aren't the best teams in the league anymore. So Bill Simmons did this on a pod. We're waiting for that next wave of stars to come through, which is where I will turn you to Victor Wembanyama. There is a literal alien in San Antonio that I don't know how the league is going to stop him in a couple of years. And I think he will be, man, I sat there on Christmas watching him torch the Knicks. And then I did the post game for us after that. And I went over to my in-laws and I explained like how the game went. Like, the Knicks won, but they got invaded by an alien and they thought I was kidding. And I showed them a picture, that picture from him blocking Andrew Wiggins' shot at the Apex.
Yes.
And I like zoomed in on Andrew Wiggins. And I showed how far away like the ball was from his hands. And it's like, yeah, this is like a normal jump shot, right? I zoomed out and showed Wemby's outstretched hand. And all of them like had never really watched basketball, even though their like son-in-law like actually works in this industry. And they're like, wait, what is this? Like, that's going to be the appeal of who's going to be able to stop Wemby. And I'm excited for that era of the NBA.
Maybe that's it. It's funny you mentioned Christmas, though, because that's when I actually thought maybe the Sixers could turn this puppy around, was after that win against Boston. Even though they started to give Boston a nice free pass in the fourth to come back, they won and survived on the road in the Garden, TD Garden. I'm thinking, here we go. No.
Good correction, by the way. TD Garden.
I know.
Not the Garden. Thank you.
I realized who I was talking to.
Yeah, I get into this when I do Boston pre-games. Like, there's the Garden, and then there's what Boston calls the Garden, which is like outside of that radius, nobody cares. You know, it's the one that's green. We got some people watching live. I want to get to some questions before we get you out of here. The first one, you kind of answered this already, but Ben Kim Gervey, Paul George is playing like the end of career Stevie franchise. Shout out to Stevie Francis, Knicks legend. What do you guys think of Morey at this point?
It's a hard one. I don't think he's bad, but I think when he got here, here's the issue. It's been so many different regimes trying to figure out this, quote, process, which we are sick and tired of. And I feel once he got here, it was a lot of the decisions were made. And, you know, you're not saying you're totally backed into a corner, but there were things that were out of his control that he was trying to salvage. Ben Simmons not wanting to shoot a basketball. You bring in James Harden. I think he did the best he could with where he was when he got here. They had no team this offseason heading into this year. They had no team. So you get a Caleb Martin, you get an Eric Gordon. If you're told we got to make a push to salvage this Joel Embiid thing, and you go get a Caleb Martin or you go get an Eric Gordon, you're sort of doing what you're told to do, right? You get Maxey in here, you get McCain in here, which are two nice draft picks. So big picture, they're not getting enough done. And I'm so sick and tired of this franchise that I'm not against change. But if I look at him specifically, just when he was here and all the context surrounding it, I think he kind of did the best with what he was handed when he got here. And then the Harden thing and the, and then the Paul George, they were backed into a corner of, we got to salvage this. I don't think the Paul George thing was just a Daryl Morey decision. I think that's a franchise decision on where are we going to make this push. And a lot of that had to do with not paying Maxey, waiting to pay Maxey, then he gets his money. That opened up the possibility to even make that next move, which is all organizationally more than Morey. I think he's a good president of basketball operations, but I think the Sixers need a whole new, fresh sight here. It's split on him, too, in this town, by the way. But I'd say he's good at what he does, but I'm also understanding that I think the Sixers need fresh blood from top to bottom.
So the interesting thing about Morey is I largely agree with his philosophy that like let the big names figure it out. And you even said it, like you do need stars to win championships in this league. And I'm coming from I enjoyed the Julius Randle experience. I enjoyed what that version of the Knicks was and the expectations that didn't necessarily come with it. And now that Karl Anthony Towns is here, and this like the Knicks are on pace for 52 wins, and a lot of the fan base will yawn at it because you're supposed to win 52 games. I guess that it's funny how the reverse may end up happening for the Sixers this year. Like this team wins 41 games and takes whoever to a 7-game series. You tell me, will any frustrations with Morey, with Nick Nurse, even Embiid, like will that go out the door? I know we talked about like, can the season be salvaged, but like I almost wondered, will they buy themselves some runway if they can have some type of success this year?
The only thing that will stop the public aggression towards them, and maybe that plays a role, maybe hearing how frustrated the fans are could sway opinions. Whether you should or shouldn't listen to the fans is a different story. I think the only way they're 1,000% off the hook is if they get past the second round, which is not happening.
So that's really where it's at. With Sixers
yeah.
fans. You gotta get me a conference finals because you're tired of the
yeah,
joke.
we've lost.
Like,
it's the same thing every year. So if you're saying, it would be, and I keep joking around that the one year they actually do it is going to be the year where we hate them for 82 games. No one cares. And then we go, whoa, what the, you know what I mean? Just jokingly, that's not going to happen. But for it to be no noise at all and no controversy, it would have to be, this is so funny even saying conference final, which is not happening. So I think the door is open for all sorts of crazy noise if it's anything less than that, even knowing how bad it's been. It's rough. It's rough.
I guess we'll wrap up here. The irony that it feels like obviously you're rooting for you as Eagles fans are rooting for the Eagles to go as far as possible. I think in the what's the hat say? I'd rather be watching the birds. There you go.
That's right. Put this on special for the show.
Again, Jets fan that kind of quit the Jets this year. So I have no dog in this.
Aaron Rodgers bringing him back. Here we go, baby.
Again, I have go Lions. That's my opinion on football these days.
Boo! You can't say go Lions to me at the end of the program.
Oh, true. That's right. I forgot.
You can't say at the end of the program.
In your way. I forgot. So
listen. Hey, whoa. We're in their way.
Oh, excuse me. Where you're? That's right. You technically would have to go on the road for that game. Although I kind of like the.
They're in our way.
Who are they playing on? So what's the matchup?
Matthew, dude, you're really out of football.
I'm really out of it. I'm
Matthew Stafford and the Rams coming to the link, baby.
So so which team's going to Detroit?
Oh, we'd be going to Detroit.
No. Who's playing them? Whoa.
The Commanders. Sorry, the Washington Commanders.
Okay. So the only way that the Eagles can host the title game
is if the Commanders win.
Man, who's ownership rooting for in the Sixers front office?
I'll tell you who. I need to look at that scumbag Joshua Harris on the sidelines of Eagles Commanders when the Commanders win and knock out my quarterback. Here he is.
Yep.
I just want to punch my TV screen.
Well, I do wish you the best of luck because it does seem like that's the thing that will just keep the perspective not on the Sixers at the moment. I can't lie to you and say that I'm rooting for Philly to win ever because it's just like not in my DNA, unfortunately, which you can understand, of course. But what I am happy about is that you made time for the Knicks Film School podcast, Brodes.